Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, good afternoon, young leader. How are you? I have a fun fact to lead us. Yeah, you just didn't even acknowledge me. That's fine. I'm not even here. Not even here. I have a fun fact. It's Fun Fact Sunday. My fact today is, what do you think the biggest fear people have is? Like, out of everyone in the world, what's the biggest fear you think people have?
Failure.
Oh, that's a good one. But no, it's just public speaking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, followed by death.
Oh.
Yeah. The reason I said that is because obviously with the guests before, like usually people come on and they're like very like anxious and like, you know, so it's a perfectly normal thing, guys. If you're coming on the podcast and you're feeling nervous, you're with apparently the majority of the population that is the biggest fear is public speaking. I thought that was really interesting.
Actually, it's funny that, a lot of people are scared of standing up in front of people and chatting.
Yeah, I get nervous. Like even when we go on like other things that isn't something that is kind of in my control or your control, it's very like daunting.
How do you go with parkrun RD?
Oh, I'm okay with that because I know the subject quite well. So it's kind of like if you know it well enough, you don't feel the fear. But where I found this fact out is I've started listening to a new book, not reading a new book, listening to a new book. It's called Limitless. So as Alina knows, whenever I read a new book, she just gets bombarded with information that she probably doesn't really care about, but I find quite interesting.
They are interesting.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to join my book club and download Limitless and read it with me, we can have a little book club on, we can.
An audio book club.
Yeah. Well, normal book club too. They can read the book and I can do the audio. I just, but it's teaching me a lot because Limitless is more about the mental approach to like education and stuff. So you know what I'm like with like physical stuff. So like I'm very much the body achieves what the mind believes. That's a big philosophy of mine. But it's funny because the more I listen to this book, the more I started to realize how much I limit myself in other aspects. You know, as much as I'm growing with the way that like I'm understanding that physically I can do anything as long as my mind believes I can do it. With education, I limit myself through a lot of things I say. So like, what would be something you say you can't do?
Run.
No, aside from physical. Like,
okay.
My big thing, like I always say, oh, I'm terrible with names. Oh, my memory sucks, like stuff like that. Like what would be something you say that's...
I can't do math to save my life.
Yeah, but do you realize by saying you can't do it, and this is what the book was kind of going along, you're limiting yourself more than your abilities. So like you probably could do maths. It's just because you always told yourself you can't do maths.
So you talk yourself out of it before you even give it a go.
Because as much as like I'm like always say, if you say I can't run a K, I go, well, you're not going to run a K because whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So it's the same with that kind of stuff. Like you've probably gone through your whole life being like, I suck at maths. So you're never going to be good at maths if you take that mentality towards it.
I suck at drawing, which is ironic considering I'm a graphic designer. But I think it's just that I don't have the patience to do a good drawing, if that makes sense.
Well, you're quite. Well, that was the other thing. The other question that I had for you. Name a genius.
Einstein.
Why? Like, what makes you go towards Einstein as a genius?
Because he's the most well-known one.
Because he has a high IQ.
High IQ, yeah.
But this thing today
I'd actually say Elon Musk too, actually. He's quite genius.
Like, for me, I thought like Oprah Winfrey and stuff. But like that was aside from the IQ-based stuff because I think she's very smart as a businesswoman. But like this thing today said, this book was saying, they don't take three things into account when they're thinking an IQ. Three things they don't, which is emotional. Like, so emotional, how wise you are with emotional stuff. Artistic, which was like... what you do at graphic design and stuff like that. And what was the other thing? It was like kind of like street smarts. So they don't take those three things, but you could be very like a genius in those three aspects of life.
Well, I am a genius in those three aspects
exactly
of life.
Right. So why do you not put yourself in that category? It's like kind of saying like we kind of limit ourselves by putting other people on pedestals and we don't give ourselves the credit in certain areas that we're strong at. So
I know I never give myself enough credit.
Yeah, I know. But it's just like, I was kind of like, you know what? I want to get smarter. I'm smart. I'm going to say I'm smart. But I limit myself by telling myself I'm not.
It's such a hard thing though, because it makes it sound like you're tooting your own horn.
Like cocky, yeah. And I think in life we do that because we always don't want to put a target on our head and be like, oh, I think I'm awesome. And then people are like, I want to bring you down a peg, because that's kind of a human instinct. But by doing that, we limit our potential, you know what I mean? And like, I think we need to stop assuming confidence. Like I had this conversation with Dom today. I said, I think sometimes people can think my confidence is cocky. But I sometimes, like I talk about myself in a post or something like that, almost trying to tell myself I'm more confident than I am. Like, you know, trying to
you're
like
having
reinforce.
a shit day, so you're
'cause,
trying
like,
to bring yourself up.
we're all insecure, like myself included. And you've got to keep, like, I've got to keep telling myself, you know, you're good. You know, like reinforcing certain parts of my own thing to make myself continue moving forward. So we sit there and we go, oh, I'm crap. You know, like it's that negative talk to yourself. You're going to kind of go backwards, not forward. So I don't know. It was just a really interesting book. And yeah, so if our guest is listening, I kind of want to get your approach on certain things that we've just talked about as well. So, you know, maybe you start thinking about that. But speaking of our guest, we might as well
enough
get her
about
in.
us.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's start stroking the ego of somebody else for once, Shannon.
Oh, welcome to Book Week.
Today's guest was sleeved back in December of 2018. She had a start weight of 114 kilos. She's since put in all the hard work and managed to lose close to 50 kilos. She's had quite a few other surgeries, which I'm sure we'll go into during the podcast. Here to talk to us about her journey to better health is Gabby, also known as Gabby Wilson 181 on the Instagram. What was that?
Welcome, Gabby181. Was that, did I get that right? 181, yeah.
Gabby Wilson.
Well, thank you for joining us on BARI Banter this afternoon. We really appreciate it.
Happy to be here, guys.
Oh, well, that's good that you're happy to be here. Sorry about the tech issues at the start there. We kind of, you know, simple Shannon. Got to stop doing those negative things. But anyway, I want to know, Gabby, what is, let's ask you, what's your question you ask yourself quite often? So like, this is again, I was going to ask Alita this prior. Like, what's something that you, like I used to be before all this, just to give you kind of a context so you can kind of build your own question. I used to be like, how do I make that person like me? You know, when I was younger, and that was playing in my insecurities. These days, it's like, how can I achieve that? What's a question you ask yourself these days?
These days, a lot of it is, what can I do to be better?
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like that's a really good focus point to continue forward, because it's like I think you said, what was yours today that you said?
What's next?
What's next?
That's my big thing. Like,
Very
so I
open.
finish something and then I go, what's next?
Yeah.
And then that could, when Shan first asked me today when we were down at the triathlon watching, I said, mine's always like, can I eat that? Should I eat that? He was like, no, Alita, that's not what I mean.
I'll keep throwing those little random questions in there that like I'm just kind of like going, oh, that's interesting. But we will continue down the lines of obviously your weight loss surgery lines, your bariatric journey. Have you been overweight your whole life?
Probably started around 8-9 years old.
Wow, okay.
And that was just mostly, I'm accident prone.
Yep. I feels that a lot. And
So like, I would like break a bone every Christmas, and it was always around Christmas time.
So you wouldn't be able to move or anything, and you just sit there and eat all the delicious food?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, food, and then like, you know, your parents would be like, oh, she's in a wheelchair because she broke her leg. I'll bring you food. And I was like, excellent.
I see where this is going. She's got a completely other realm of self-sabotage. She's like, so you're telling me I can't have slaves if I hurt myself?
Yeah, like I was like, ooh.
They're like, Gabby, we're finding this as a bit of a pattern. You never do it around Easter. It's always around Christmas.
Yeah, because then you get like the extra guilt presents as well because you're in.
Oh my God, she's
She's
that
a
kind of
genius.
genius. Like, we found your genius, Gabby. So you owe a lot of that. Like, were you like, every year were you breaking something, or was it like just like every few years? Like with that?
So from the age of 7 till about 15,
Yep.
I would break a bone, and I found out on like my 8th broken ankle that I had a calcium deficiency.
I was about to ask, is it calcium related?
Yeah, but it took them years to find out, and I was like, really?
Wow. So does that mean that you have to be super careful with your calcium now?
Now I'm actually all good. Since I got the sleeve, I can actually tolerate like full cream milk and things like that. So my calcium levels are like through the roof now.
So you got your calcium deficiency because certain like dairy didn't agree with you back when you were younger.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So it's like, what?
Oh, your face just then.
That was in my intro space. I was like, oh, knowledge. No, that's really interesting.
Eat that up.
Yeah.
Can you, so apart from like hurting yourself and breaking bones and stuff like that all the time, can you pinpoint a time in your life that you sort of just started going, wow, it's really stacking on and I'm not able to get this off?
Yes, so I was, I think 10 or 11, and I come from a military family, and my dad was deployed to Afghanistan for 6 months. And then my mum was also full-time working and everything. And I just come home because, like, he got teased at school because it was always around the daddy-daughter days.
Mm.
And my dad's, you know, overseas type thing. And he would get teased in school, where's your dad? He doesn't love you, so just go home and eat.
Oh.
But, like, I'd hide the rubbish so my mum wouldn't know.
Ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
We've all been there.
But it's funny because my sister's 3 years older than me, and she went the opposite way of not eating.
Oh, wow.
And I just went eating.
Yeah. Oh, it's
And then at age 12, I had a growth spurt and dislocated my hip, so I was 8 weeks in a wheelchair.
Whoa, so that's how bad your deficiency was, that just by growing too fast you broke bones.
So I thought it'd be cool and like be like, oh, I grew 5 centimeters. I grew 2 centimeters and my hip slipped out of place.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is. Threw your hip out.
And is that why, I'm sure we'll get into your knee surgeries and stuff later on down the track, but is that why you ended up having to have knee surgeries and stuff too, because of your calcium and bones breaking and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I also have hypomobility, so where you can get like your...
Okay, we can't show that on the podcast. No. No, it's quite cool. So what she just did then was pull her thumb down to touch her wrist, which is, I would break my literal wrist if I tried to do that. So yeah, you're quite double jointed. Was that double jointed, or is that just like a...
It's hypo, whatever she just said then.
Hypomobility.
Hypomobility.
Wow.
So does that mean that your knees can kind of bend backwards as well?
Yeah, so they can go like a banana shape. When you stand, you can push them back further.
Yeah, I get that sometimes too.
Delightful. I call that a move in the wrong direction.
Gumby. We're Gumby.
Yeah, literally. If mine did that, I'm like, I'm in real trouble.
Oh, wow.
Now if it does it, that's a big because it's like secured in place. So
Yeah, true. Especially your knees, because you've had like, I'm sure there's lots of nuts and screws and bolts and different things going on in there. So it probably shouldn't do that these days.
Yeah. If it did do it, I would be on the phone to my surgeon going, you stuffed something up.
Yeah. Prior to surgery, do you have any comorbidities like diabetes or high blood pressure or anything like that? Did I say that right?
Comorbidities.
Comorbidities. Sorry, Alita wrote it and it was too complicated.
Yeah, no, I always say it wrong as well. It's just a word I cannot pronounce that well.
Comorbidities.
No, I've got to keep updating later and be like, can you just put words that are like simple for Shannon to say, because like
I didn't
like
think that you were going to ask that question. I wrote that one for me to ask because I knew that you wouldn't be able to pronounce it, but that's right. So did you have any comorbidities?
No.
No, so
apart from just joint issues. Like I had no diabetes, no heart issues, no high blood pressure. I was just a fat, clumsy kid.
And so none of that, what did Shannon just say? None of that bad talk about yourself. No. So was that one of your biggest driving factors going into surgery, to try and get some of that weight off your joints and your knees and hopefully try and stop you from being quite so clumsy and breaking things all the time?
Yeah, so like I injured my knee originally at 16, and I only had major surgery on it last year just before I turned 25.
Oh, we're like twins. I had the same thing too. I got
God, we're like knee twins.
I got tackled in a game of basketball and dislocated my knee, and then I dislocated both of my knees a couple of years later, and then I had knee surgery when I was 26 or 25, 26.
At least the story sounds cool. Mine was at deb practice for school. I did a dip and didn't come back up.
That's a deep dip.
Oh gosh.
It was a very deep dip, and my knee said, "See you later, man."
Yeah, bye. Let's talk about eating disorders. How's your relationship been with food prior to surgery and throughout surgery?
So prior to surgery, I would say, especially during high school and like knee injury, because, doctors are great, you're fat, just lose weight.
Oh God, how many times have we all heard that, hey?
Yeah, it's simple. Come on. No.
Yeah, and I was like, you're making me feel crazy. So I wouldn't say binge as in how bad people consider binge eating, where they're eating like 5,000 plus calories. My meals were just like the size of my dad would eat, a very fit military dude. Like I was like, I can eat that too.
Challenge accepted.
You're going for seconds. Me too.
Yeah, that's it. Thirds, sure. I'm sure I can manage it.
Yeah, like let me have a nap and I'll be right there.
That's it. Put it in the fridge. I'll eat it in the morning.
Yeah, and then I went through contemplating gastric sleeve to like cutting back on my food. Like maybe I can do it on my own. And my knee said, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
Yeah. And then, after the sleeve, I got restrictive eating disorder. Like I wouldn't eat any more than 800 calories a day.
Okay. And what was holding you back from having the sleeve? Like obviously you looked at it and did you just feel like you could still do it by yourself?
So I thought like maybe it is just in my head that I'm crazy and nothing is wrong with my knee. Because I was like, no, they would have found it by now. Like, because I was 23, just turned 23 when I had the sleeve done. So I was thinking, no, I can do it. Like, I'm still young. I can do it. I was working out, but like when your knee comes out of place all the time and you did all that, and I had like a breakdown to my dad, and I was like, I'm never going to be fit and healthy. Like, I'm never going to be that, like, I can't do it. And I was only eating like twice a day now. Like, I was like, no, I can't. And then we discussed that, and we discussed lap band. And then when I booked in with my surgeon, he was like, no, we don't do that anymore. Like, that's very old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did all the research, spoke to my dad, and he paid for it. So it was to me, it felt like more pressure to do well as well.
Because somebody else was supporting you through it, sort of thing.
Yeah, because it's a lot of money. And I'm like, ooh, if I stuff up, like, is he going to be angry? He never was. Like,
yeah. He's your dad. He's never going to.
Yeah, you always have those thoughts in your head, though, that you're like, let's try. But, yeah, I struggled from when I had my first knee surgery in May of 2018 to sleeve December 2018. I only gained 2 kg in that whole time.
Wow.
And so my surgeons are like, you're trying, but there's just, without exercise, you can't
achieve what you want to.
Yeah. But, yeah. And then my booking went really fast. I signed the paperwork the first day I met him.
Whoa.
Wow.
That is quick.
Yeah, you knew. Did you have a fear of failure when you went into it? Like, was that your biggest concern, or like, did you have a concern about the surgery kind of day or different things like that?
So, like, surgery day, the actual aspect of surgery scared me, like, because I've had joint surgery, but this is an organ. This is like your inside.
It's just your guts. Yeah.
Yeah, because all I could think of, if it's my knee, like, they got really cool prosthetics these days, but for my stomach, I was like, if they stuff that up, like, that's it.
There's no stomach. You can't put another one in there.
Yeah, and so I was freaking out. I was like, oh. And then, yeah, the mental side of it was, oh, cool. If I fail, I'm just going to stay fat and get fatter. What if I do fail? What if I have a complication? Yeah. And then I went the opposite and got too skinny. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that one coming.
So were you quite restrictive, did you say, after surgery? So you almost went the opposite, and after surgery you started restricting. What does an 800-calorie diet, like I've never calorie counted. I don't understand it. I think we're meant to be sitting around 12 to 1,500. Don't quote me on that because I don't really know. But like, what does an 800-calorie diet look like?
So I personally eat a lot of meat to get the protein amount in, but it was like shaved ham, which is quite low calories, chicken, some yogurt, and some protein milk.
So you were sort of just avoiding eating like proper normal meals, and you were just sort of eating enough to get you by.
Yeah, using her restriction to its full abilities. Yeah, I totally get that. I did exactly the same thing where you like go, well, I don't really feel like eating, so I'm just not going to eat much, because that was kind of what the restriction was like, you're using it to full abilities, which you kind of understand later on is probably the worst thing you could do because, your muscle kind of depletes and it takes fuel sources from other areas of your body. So, you kind of have to understand that like they put rules in place when it comes to nutrition and stuff like that for a reason, because they want you to maintain a lot of your muscle and they want you to kind of like, stay healthy. I did exactly the same thing throughout my whole process, was just not eat sometimes, eat minimal, and then because weight loss was my main focus. So,
I just focused on it. As long as that scale number was going down, I didn't care.
Yeah, because that was the whole, like I was talking to someone the other day, actually it was a podcast I was listening to the other day, and it was saying the fear of failure is almost the best thing you can have, because you're going to be successful if you have that fear of failure, because you will do whatever it takes to make sure you don't fail. So that was like kind of, they were saying in this podcast that like the fear of failure is perfectly normal, but it's also one of the things that's going to fuel you the most. If you go into it with the kind of like the mentality of, oh, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? I think we're all not probably 50 to 90% of us are going to have that fear of failure from the start. But it's also something that will make you question yourself when things start turning around. And that's kind of what I was saying is like, you know, when you still, like if you say start regaining, that fear of failure is going to make you question yourself. And that's something that weight loss surgery and bariatric surgery does, because usually it's our last thing that we do.
Yeah.
It makes us go, wait a second. So I'm almost self-sabotaging, or I'm doing things or implementing old habits. Why am I doing that? Because I really don't want to fail, because this is my last option. And then you finally start questioning yourself, which is something that like you wish you could do through a diet, but it's something we never did, because if you failed at a diet, you just started another diet.
Yeah.
You know, bariatric surgery, it's like you failed bariatric surgery. You know, the next option is maybe some more bariatric surgery, but it's like, you know, you're at your extremes of like, this is it. We need to just work out what the issues are. And that's what this podcast is saying. I was like, it hit the nail on the head, because for me, I'm like, that's been something that's driven me the whole time. Was
the podcast about bariatric surgery? Or
yeah, it was a bariatric surgery podcast. I think it was one of BN ones.
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, it was talking about like that kind of aspect. And I was like, yeah, it's so freaking true. Because that's been something that's been like, I started questioning myself when I started noticing that I was allowing old habits to come back in, and almost like self-sabotaging. I was like taking this mentality towards like, you know, and I said this to my surgeon actually the other day. I said something I had to come to the realization I'm almost addicted to being validated for my weight loss. So like I've lost 50 to 60 kilos 5 times naturally. And I used to always regain, because I think for me, you get a lot of validation through losing weight, because, you know, if you're losing weight, people come to you and go, oh, wow, you look incredible. You know what I mean? Like they never come to you when you've maintained for 2 years and go, congratulations, you look normal. You know what I mean? Like you haven't regained. So for me, I realized that like that was maybe something that played into my side of things, was I may have been addicted to putting on weight so I could lose it again and get that validation, because I felt like there was nothing else in my life that people could validate me through. So
now you run 100 kilometers just to get that validation.
Yeah.
Like a crazy man.
Yeah.
But it's all scalable. And I said that today. We all crave validation, whatever aspect it comes in. You know, for me, it was through weight loss. It's now through like accomplishment, which I sometimes validate myself. I'm working on that side of things, but I do rely on other people to validate me as a human. You know, we all require a certain amount of validation, and we all do it in different ways. So yeah, that was something that was quite eye-opening to me. And the only reason I went through that process of understanding that is because I started realizing, you know, that fear of failure. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to fail if I don't work out why I'm doing this. So yeah, that was really interesting.
So going back after Shannon's little word vomit that he just had then.
Yeah, I do that.
How's your relationship with food now? Like you're not still restricting anymore, are you? Or you've sort of like you've come out the other side from that and you're quite balanced now, or how's all that going?
So now I eat 2,000 to 2,300 calories a day.
And do you actively count calories?
Not anymore, but I eat the same foods like all the time.
Yeah, so you sort of know roughly.
It's because I started weightlifting, so I had to be able to eat enough to fuel that without like my body getting run down, especially with recovery from surgeries. Like I was like, I can't afford to not eat enough.
Yeah.
So I went more that way of going, well, let's see how much I can eat today.
Yeah.
But in like a healthier way, like I'm still super high protein and everything like that. But I was like, oh, let's see how much chicken I can eat today.
Yeah, it's not like you're going through the drive-thru and getting, you know, an extra large meal and blah, blah, blah. You're doing it through the healthy means.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, like I still enjoy Macca's, but I can eat a 3-piece Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because that's quite a hard mental adjustment to make, is from the weight loss mentality to the understanding fueling your body, and like what you just said then when you took days where you were like, oh, I wonder how much of this healthy chicken I can eat, you know, like wonder how much I can overfuel with good stuff. Did you find that transition? Because I'm assuming you're probably still going through it a little bit. We all still have a little bit of that weight loss mentality. Are you finding that transition quite hard?
I did at about a year post-op when I was at my smallest weight of 56 kg, and I'm quite tall.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
So I was, you could see all my sternum, hips, like everything just looked sunken in because I had nothing on my body. So I had to learn food all over again. I had to get on the mass gaining shakes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was hell, trying to gain weight with a restrictive sleeve.
Yeah.
Like it was force eating, and now I can. It's still about 6 or 7 meals for me to get that amount of food in.
Yep.
But it's so much better. Like I don't go, oh my God, if I overeat, I'm going to gain weight. I just go, okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny too though, because like everybody before sleeve surgery has this fear of stretching their sleeves out. And for you, when you would have been at your lowest weight of the 55, 56, whatever it was, and then like you being told that you need to eat more, in your mind you'd be like, no, but hang on, I'm going to stretch my sleeve out. Like obviously you knew that you had to gain weight, but by eating more, like everyone's biggest fear, not biggest fear, but everybody's fear is that they're going to potentially stretch their sleeve out. You're being told to medically eat more. So was that a fear of yours?
Yeah. So I had a lot of breakdowns, a lot of crying, a lot of, everything, because I was like, oh my God, like I've eaten 1,200 calories today. This is so bad. And then like my surgeon and doctor like, yeah, you still have to like hit up 1,800 to like build it all back up. And I was like, I can't fit that in. Like I'm going to stretch it. It's going to be, 56 kg, then 60, then 65, then 70, then I'm back to 100.
Yeah.
But all in my head, I was like, yeah, that's going to happen in like 3 months because I'm just going to stretch it out.
Yeah. No, it is, because it's you just kind of like go, well, this wave, where's this wave going to, if I let it start now, am I going to be able to pull it back in, or is it just going to be a gradual slope?
To this day, I still have like those freakouts where I'm like, well, okay, like I don't want to step on the scale because, I'm going to freak out. And I step on the scale and it says 65 kg and I'm like, yeah, cool, I've been that weight for like a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good realization to have sometimes when you realize you are a product of your lifestyle now. So the weight you're at now is kind of a reflection of the lifestyle you currently have. When you've built it and you know what it's like, you kind of understand that's why it is.
Yeah, I call it my easy maintenance weight. Like I don't have to be crazy. Like I have to eat this. I have to, only have 1,500 to maintain it. I have to. Like I'm like I work out 5 times a week because I like to.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I have to be able to maintain my body. Like when I had my recent surgeries, that was 3 weeks, nothing, and I only lost a kg.
So you've got it pretty down packed then, the whole thing. The whole eating, working out, moving. Yeah,
but it took a lot of research and study because, in all honesty, my dietitian was horrid, especially when I was struggling with gaining weight.
Yeah.
She just recommended, I'll just have OptiFast.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm trying to gain, not do that. So I just skipped her and went straight to my actual surgeon. He's like, get on like a nutrition website and go for your mass gainers, like the bulking shakes.
Yeah.
And they are delicious, but wow, they take like 2 hours to drink.
Yeah.
Oh wow, just really filling and like
because
substance.
The one I was on was like 400 calories a serve.
Whoa.
But that's if you're mixing it with water. I was mixing it with milk because they're like up to calories even more. Or that bad boy took.
Yeah.
That's crazy too, considering you said
eating
as
it with a
well,
spoon.
like you were saying that back in the day when you were restricting yourself, you were only eating 800 calories a day, and then you've gone the other side, and now you're like forcing yourself to drink a shake that's like 600 calories in one sitting. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Like I'm obviously not on the bulking ones anymore because I don't need that. But I'm on like my normal whey protein just when I go to work because I'm on my feet for like 8+ hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like just under 400 calories, that shake.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, woo.
Yeah, that's crazy. To put yourself on liquids and like high calorie liquids, I don't know. That to me even now would be like quite a task to kind of be like, oh, like that's not something I want to kind of get in the habit of using long term because
it's scary.
Yeah, because that's quite surprising when you said your surgeon recommended that because I'm like, that's kind of like my surgeon always led me away from like high calorie liquids. Now he kind of understands because I need it to get the calories in sometimes when I'm exercising, which is obviously the avenue your surgeon went down when you're exercising enough to burn the calories. So this is the only way you're going to get that calories through. Without, you couldn't do it with organic food sources. So
I was literally talking to Dom and Courts about that on the way up to the try this morning, about how like I quite often sometimes have like a smoothie for breakfast where I'll put in, a handful of berries, 1 or 2 pieces of mango and like half a banana. and some protein, mix it all together with some ice. And Shan's like, yeah, but your dietitian told you from the very beginning, like, if we were to sit down and put that much fruit in a bowl, 4 strawberries, half a mango, half a banana, 4 pieces of pineapple, there's no way that you'd be able to eat all of that in one sitting. But because you're blending it up and putting it into a smoothie, you're actually able to drink the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that plays into what we were saying before, the weight loss mentality versus the fueling mentality. And I think that's kind of you decide when that, well, you and your dietitian or your expert that you're dealing with need to decide when that comes around, because there will come a time where maybe your activities require more calories or more fuel, which is then things like that come into play. But obviously she said that when I was still had to be in the diet mentality, where I had to avoid doing, say, like, liquids, high calorie liquids, or like fruits, for example, where you couldn't eat the fruit, but if you blended it up, you could obviously consume it. So, with the weight loss mentality, that's obviously a go.
The 3 of us sat in the car being like, but do you lose calories if you blend it up? We were like, I know that there's the same amount of sugar, but just like some of it. Oh, it was also 5:30 this morning, so we hadn't had coffee.
What a weird conversation. You prior to surgery versus you now. I have a question. So, like, prior to surgery, rate your confidence out of 10 and rate your confidence out of 10 now.
At the start, probably like 2 out of 10. Yep. And then now probably solid 8, 9 out of 10.
8, 9. Yeah, I was going to say, because if you haven't seen Gabby's Instagram, let's just say emojis hide a lot.
Are you very proud of that though? Like, are you very proud of what you've been able to achieve?
Yeah.
Is that why you do it?
So I get like obviously some nasty comments, but at the same time I'm like, I don't really care, because for me, not just physically, like, I've had plastics and stuff, but I put so much work in mentally as well to get to where I am. And to learn, like what we were saying before, of losing weight to actually fueling your body. Like, that is a massive head switch, especially, I still have days where I'm like, okay, like, I had a toasted sandwich for lunch because, like, I've worked since 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. Like, and then I went to the gym and I was like, I need carbs, like, I need that. And I still think to myself, oh, let's not do that tomorrow though.
Isn't it funny though? Like, because I don't see a toasted sandwich being something that you should be like shaming yourself for eating. Like, it's funny how, like, if you had been like, oh, I went through Macca's and I had a double quarter pounder, and like, because I was tired and I worked, like, yes, I'd be like, yeah, okay, don't do that tomorrow as well. But like a toasted sandwich, it has some nutritional value to it.
Like, you can choose worse things, but at the same time, I still think like, oh, I could have done better. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm working off like 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
And just finished, like, because I'm a gaming attendant, so I just finished a gaming shift with a lot of drunk people. And then I just went to the gym for an hour, and I'm like, yeah, like, saying it now, I'm like, that's so stupid because it's not going to do anything to my body.
Yeah. No, it is. It's like, I guess, as much as you look at a food and you go, oh, I could have had better things, I think you can also look at food and say, I could have had a lot of worse things.
Yeah.
So sometimes, crucifying yourself is probably the most harmful part of having that one thing.
Yeah.
But obviously you don't want to get in the habit of making it a normality, because convenience is never a good thing to put above other things.
The one thing there that we can take from that is that you've obviously learnt enough about nutrition and about what your body needs to go, hang on a second, yes, a toasted sandwich was convenient and delicious, but it's not what my body needed at that point in time. Like, I think that says, because us bariatric patients have never really understood nutrition very well. So like for you to get to the point where you can now understand that, yes, a toasted sandwich isn't too bad, but it also doesn't have everything in it for you. Like, that's a massive step forward, I guess. So
basically what I do with that is I just go, okay, like, I've got meal prepped chicken and stuff, but again, I didn't want to eat that at like 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I was just like, okay, like, the rest of my food's already prepped and planned out because I got work again tonight. So I'm like, a toasted sandwich is nothing, because I still hit all my protein throughout the rest of the day. Like, I still get everything. So I'm just like, okay, but it took a lot of learning nutrition to learn all of this.
And it's
like
so
what
easy.
You were saying, yeah.
It's so easy for us as well to go straight back into that guilt mentality. Like, I know, speaking from experience, like, I would eat something when I was larger, and I would automatically, like, I loved eating the whole bag of Allen's snakes when I was doing it. But then as soon as you finish, you'd kind of go into that guilt mentality. And I think that it doesn't matter how long or how hard we work on it, we're always still going to have some sort of guilt mentality because it's been sort of ingrained into us. Like,
yeah, that was my biggest one as well when I was in like the midst of eating disorder. So I was like, okay, like, you know, I'm going to have a bit of chocolate. And it was literally like 2 squares of like the Lindt chocolate.
yeah.
And then I would do 45 minutes of cardio.
Wow.
Because I was like, no, that's bad. I can't believe I did that. And now I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat like a whole Freddo frog and do absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah. I think I'm still kind of in that. Like I kind of guilt myself definitely sometimes. Like I have binge. Like it's something I talk about. It's one habit I'm trying to deal with is like I sometimes unconsciously eat and then kind of guilt myself and be like, I shouldn't have done that. And then I might, you know, run an extra 2Ks that day just to be like, just like almost punishing, like don't do it again. Like understand why you did it. As much as like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't sometimes exercise to offset some bad habits I have still. That's definitely a part of life for me. But my guilt process is getting better. Like I think I don't guilt trip myself as much because I understand like calories in, calories out, and how much exercise I do requires a certain amount of fuel. But I still have a certain amount of binge eating where I kind of go through that unconscious and eat, and then I go, oh damn, like why did I not stop? You know, 4 or 5 mouthfuls ago. So yeah, it's all a process, and like some people could sit there and be like, oh, I wish I could, you know, not care about what I ate. It's all a process. We all go through that process a little bit slower, and you know, some people it might take a lot longer. So
yeah, I don't think as bariatric patients though we'll ever sit there and go, we don't care what we eat, because we're so concerned of going back to where we were that we're like, it's always going to be in the back of your mind. Like I have that. Like I'll do cheat days with like my best friend Jordan, and we'll eat pizza and stuff, and then I'm like, okay, yep, that's fine. Like I feel fine that day, and then the next day I'm like,
shit.
yeah, I'm gonna do a bigger workout.
Yeah, I know. It is because I think our biggest thing is, as you said earlier, the failure. So like, you know, we do those kind of things, and we have to kind of go, oh, maybe I'll just make myself feel a little bit better by doing a few more, you know, reps of this or a few more of that, just to kind of make ourselves feel better and understand that, like, you know, it's not going to happen overnight if we do these bad decisions. This was a question I wasn't going to ask, and I said to Lita, should I ask it? I want to know, like, what people's insecurities are. Like, obviously, your insecurities that you have now, are they new insecurities, or are they insecurities you've always had, and have they changed from prior to surgery?
I'd say I was always pretty secure of who I was as a person, like personality-wise, but it was just body image. Like, you know, you're the token fat friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you're the fat, funny friend. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm, you know, skinny, but I'm still funny. So I'm like, okay. Like that's just me regardless of my body size. But now, like, the insecurities I have now are, I think they're more, food related. Am I going to get fat again? Is this going to happen?
Yeah.
And then I also have with, like, my knee. Like, I'm like, I'd love to wear high heels. And my knee's like, no.
Yes, I hear you with that one too.
Yeah. Have you had many people like openly talk to you and say, oh, you know, it's only a matter of time, like you will get bigger again? Have you had many doubters? Like, have you had much negative comments like that throughout your process?
Yeah, so when I started posting about like the eating disorder and gaining weight, I had a few people comment going, you look so good now, don't do it. It's going to be like, you know, a fat pig again and everything like that. And I was like, I am borderline, like, about to become quite underweight. Like, this is a no-go zone for me. And I was just freaking out going, okay, I'd stand on the scale every single day and, like, the weight would go up, and then the next day I'd be like, no, I'm not going to eat that much, so it would drop back down.
Yeah.
But, yeah, now being more at a comfortable weight, I'm like, I'm actually healthy. I'm strong. Like,
yeah,
I can do it, but I still get some people, oh, you're getting super fat. And I'm like, I have a 4-pack, but all right.
Yeah, do you get many, like, because with your content that you share, I could imagine that it would make a lot of females feel kind of insecure, like when they should really just kind of delete your account and move on. They will obviously maybe, and that's why I'm asking the question, do you get many people, you know, making fake accounts or making comments to try and like bring you down a couple of tiers?
Yeah, I've had, so this girl no longer follows me, but she would stalk me through her old account.
Yeah.
And she's actually friends with one of my best friends, and she told her, like, when I post, my body every day or things like that, I'm promoting eating disorders. People should, be underweight. They should do this. And I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like it, don't look at it.
Yeah.
But I've literally posted about, like, you need to eat more. You have to fuel your body. You have to, like, give it what it needs now. But I've had, a few inboxes from girls and stuff doing the whole, your body's just all plastic surgery. You didn't work for any of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Why take the time?
I just let it slide. Like, I'm like, if that's how you feel, like, good on you. Like,
yeah, I'll just be like, block. See you later. Like, you
I'm
clearly
looking
need to. This is probably harming you more than it's harming me. So you need to just maybe self-analyze a little bit for a second.
I'm looking at it now though. Like, hats off to you. You're very confident, and I love that. Like, yeah, it's.
You're very confident.
Well, look, I mean, I personally wouldn't do it because I don't have that much confidence in myself.
Just
but
put
I'm
it this
also
way.
not going to sit
If
here and
you-
block you because of it. Like, good on you.
If you weren't coming on Barry Banter and I was like looking at your profile and I was reading like all your bios and stuff, I would probably be like, if Alita caught me looking at your profile over my shoulder, I would feel like I needed to explain.
you'd be like, it's nothing bad, I swear.
Yeah, no, I'm just understanding her like, process. I swear. That's why I'm here.
And so you had plastics, and you were around 9 months out from surgery when you had your plastics. Did you do that for a confidence thing? Did you do it because your skin was like causing you like medical conditions? Did you do it for like you just wanted to look a certain way? Like, what was your reasoning for plastics?
So I wanted plastics from the start because I knew I carried my weight like stomach size. Like, I just knew, like, you can't tone excess skin. There's no special moisturizer you can use. Like, none of that. But my thighs, when I lost all my weight, used to clap for me. And I'm not talking about your thighs banging together. I'm saying each individual thigh, the skin would roll and clap on itself.
On itself.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive. That's a
So
party
it was
trick.
like it was a round of applause for myself.
Yeah.
I said that
But-
about my arms all the time when I run, because my arms, like my tuck shop lady arms, like clap onto this, like my side boob sort of area. And I say that all the time, that I clap for myself when I'm running. And I'm like, I'm my biggest fan.
That's what I used to do as well. Any movement I did that meant my thighs were going to move, they just clapped. And I loved it for a few months until it started like rubbing on each other and getting all the friction. And I was like, yeah, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And then my stomach, like, I was single and everything and going through plastics, and I was like, I want a bikini body. Like, I want to look nice and not have my
Yeah.
tummy hanging over and everything. And like, if people are fine with the excess skin, like, it's an individual thing. I never pressure people. Like, when people ask me, I'm like, yeah, I had plastics. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to get it done, you get it done. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things, like, as much as you're saying I wanted to look a certain way, I think for you as well would have been I want to feel a certain way, not have those things that you feel self-conscious of, so you can feel more comfortable and enjoy certain experience, like going to the beach and stuff like that, and that's why I didn't. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I didn't want the self-doubt, like the whole, oh, cool, I've lost all the weight. And then still, for me, it was like it was a constant reminder of what I had done to my body and everything. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. Like, this isn't for me.
You
And
wanna
then,
feel confident.
same with, like, obviously I had my chest done because I never had anything to begin with, even when I was big. And I got bullied for that in high school because I was fat and flat.
Oh, isn't it funny? I was thinking this before when you said that you got bullied at school because your dad was never around. Like, it just goes to show that kids will find anything to pick on you about. Hey, like, you wonder why we're all so traumatized.
Oh my God, right? Literally, like, words hurt, especially when you're a kid. Like, they find your utter insecurity, like the thing that, like, you have no dad. Like, okay, when is that okay to talk about? Like,
that was like when I used to have, there was 3 of us girls that used to all go camping together, like family trips. And one of the dads used to call us the LTB, the Little Tit Brigade. And like all throughout, the dad used to call us LTBs. Like, and it's like, I'm like 10 years old. I shouldn't have big tits. Like,
I would be investigating that father. That's a really weird
and then,
comment for a father to
even when we
make.
came like through high school and like into early teenagers, he'd still say kind of like, ha, it's the Little Titty Brigade. And I'm like, okay,
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
yeah, it was a bit strange, but it was like, even like people were always, now that I'm saying it out loud, yeah.
Yeah.
But people would always find something to like bring you down.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, like I moved here in 2008 from New Zealand, so I started year 7 high school here, and so I was the new kid with an accent, and then I had my hip surgery, so I was the fat kid in a wheelchair with an accent, and I was like, this is just getting worse for me.
You're like, this is escalating.
Like, I knew high school was going to be bad, but I never thought it would be this bad.
That's it.
Yeah,
I like
especially
my
like
accent.
all in the first year, I was like, this is, and then even when you hit like year 10, year 11, oh, you're the fat kid in a wheelchair, and I was
Oh
like,
my God.
how do you still remember this?
Yeah. Well, I still got that. I saw one of the guys from school the other way, and he goes, "Oh my God, you school you shit knee shattered." And I'm like, "Yeah, I try to forget that. Thanks for reminding me." But it's
What a
like,
fun time.
what a fun! I loved school. It was so much fun. It gave me
Yeah.
huge insecurities. So with
It
your,
gave me anxiety.
yeah, that's it. It gave me anxiety. So with your plastic surgery, you've had your legs done, arms done, boobs done,
Tummy.
abdoplasty. Is that what it's called?
So tummy, thighs, and boobs. My arms actually stayed pretty
Oh,
tiny.
wow, you have done really well. Yeah, because I thought you had your arms done because
Because guns.
They're actually
guns.
pretty tiny.
Yeah, well done.
girl lift. Oh, she flexes. Look at her.
She lifts.
You lift, bro. Well, sis.
Are you
sorry.
are you done with plastics? You don't want to get anything else done?
So the only other thing I'm possibly looking at, which I've spoken to my surgeon, is lipo around my thigh scars to make them smoother, because I still have like the fat that sits in that scar, so it kind of lumps it.
Yep.
Yeah, but he said that's like he can just do that under local just to smooth out the scar.
Yeah. Can you get Botox or something in there, like to smooth that out? I don't know. That's just me being a very uneducated doctor.
No, because it's in like that weird scar tissue blob,
Oh, okay. So it's
so they have to like actually
get
get me
in there.
suck it out. But he's like, oh, that's like a 30-second job, and I was like, okay.
Cool.
But I'm not in a rush to do it. I'm like, I don't like. It would be nice, but at the same time,
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Has exercise played a pretty big part for you? And how are you finding, like, at the moment, obviously, with the knees and different things, you obviously wouldn't be exercising. How are you finding, how are you finding that? And
so if my physio ever watches this, no, I'm not exercising. And I promise it's only 5 kg weight.
yeah. They just come in bigger sizes at my gym, yeah.
Yeah, just bigger sizes, like a whole barbell.
Oh, wow.
So you found it
That's
quite
all.
hard not to do exercise because it's obviously played such a big part in your journey.
Yeah, so yeah, I more struggle with having to sit still, but like you're being told you can't exercise. Like it's like when you try and hold in a cough because you've done it too many times and it makes you want to cough more.
Yeah, or when you walk into an elevator and you need to cough and you're like, oh, this is the worst time possible to cough.
Yeah, and you're like trying
Yeah.
to hold it in.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we
Yeah, that's how I
comparing
feel.
exercise to coughing? Like,
No. We're comparing the fact that if someone tells you can't do something, you want to do it
Oh.
even more, or you get this uncontrollable desire to just do
Yeah,
it.
you just get the urge to, like, you have to do it.
yeah, I think we call that being a shithead. Yeah.
It's also that because, yeah, when I had my major knee surgery last year, which was 2.5 hours long, I was in a knee brace for 6 weeks, no walking on that leg.
Yeah.
And I got told off for exercising because I was still doing like my core and upper body. And he's like, you have to rest. I was like, yeah, the leg's resting.
The legs are resting.
I got in trouble when I was in hospital recovering from my gallbladder surgery because, like, you know, everybody says to you, the more you get up and move, the better you feel, blah, blah, blah. And I still had it in my head that I was going to do a triathlon 2 weeks after getting my gallbladder taken out. So here I was walking around the ward of our local hospital and I was pretending to put my watch on to, like, see how far I walked around the ward. And one of the nurses was like, get back in your bed. You're not training in here. And I was like, oh, okay. So I, like, walked back to my bedroom and sat there and I was like, this sucks.
And it's like, this is the worst time of my life.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. My doctor literally told me the other day, so no running. And I was like, what about riding? Yeah, in small amounts. So today I only rode 50 Ks.
Yeah,
I know.
like my physio for this surgery, he's like, yeah, no weightlifting. I was like, okay. He's like, I'm being serious. He's like, I know what you're like. And I was like, so
Damn
like
it.
body weight?
So no burpees for me while I'm recovering from a double knee replacement? Okay.
Yeah,
Noted.
because then he said body weight. And I was like, okay. He's like, no, you're not doing Bulgarian split squats. You're not doing single leg things. And I was like, okay.
Isn't it funny
Like,
though? Did you ever think that you would be the person who had to like have an
I
argument,
know.
so to speak, with your doctor about not doing
You
exercise?
used to be the person that hid candy under the bed, and now all of a sudden you're hiding exercise from your doctor. Like transition.
It was the whole, oh, you need to get up and exercise more. And me being like, oh, no. And now being told, can you stop?
Yeah.
Like,
So
stop it.
when
And I'm like,
Sure.
when you're back up and mobile and able to do all the things again, what's next for you? What are your big goals coming up?
so I'm currently, about 65 kg, and I'd like to stay that weight but add more muscle mass
More
and then get more, defined.
Yeah.
Like not bodybuilder. That's too much work and too much food I cannot actually eat.
You wouldn't do one of the WCF or whatever they're called that the women do?
I contemplated doing one, but, I live in Melbourne, so the state of lockdown.
Yeah.
But I contemplated doing one, but at the same time, for me, the last year and a bit's just been more about mental health
Yeah.
and learning food. So I didn't want to rush into that, like maybe a couple years, but for me, it's just getting strong. Like, I'd love to walk up a couple steps without my right knee going, we're tired now.
Your knee sounds like a right old little.
Yeah. Like, I'm 26, but my knee identifies as 62.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have that.
Yeah, I got told when I went
Yeah.
and saw my surgeon when I was 25, my knee surgeon, he like looked at my MRIs and all that sort of thing, and he went, well, you've got a knee that looks like dog's breakfast. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in a 25-year-old. You need a full knee reconstruction, but you're also 25, so I'm not going to do it. And I was like, sick. And he goes, so lose some weight.
That'll help.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Can
buddy.
relate to that whole conversation.
If only it was that easy at the time.
I know.
But you said learning nutrition. That's like literally what you're doing, aren't you? You're studying to be a nutritionalist?
Yes, I'm studying sports nutrition. So right now I am about a third of the way through it. And then the sports nutrition side is like your reverse dieting, bodybuilding, like your extremes that people can go to for meal plans.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously like your weight loss ones.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. And I've just, to me, the first part of this course has been super easy because of everything I had to relearn.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay. But yeah, at the same time, learning more about it, I'm like, wow, I could have damaged my body so bad.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I'm like, I got lucky that, I kind of caught the eating disorder before it went
Too far.
full. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
it's good you've gone through that though, because it'll give you a unique approach to the whole thing. Where you can see it from a different angle, because experiences give information, and that's kind of what you take away from it.
So did you want to work with people who have gone through bariatrics in like eating disorders, or you just want to be like a sports nutritionalist and just help all walks of life?
I would love to do like all walks of life, but I prefer the bariatric side because I think coming from someone who's had the surgery, people will be more willing to listen. Then, some dietitians, you get their whole life. And I'm like, cool, you're qualified, but you don't know what it was like to be fat.
You're more relatable.
Yeah. It's good though, because I think more Barry athletes are coming through. So having someone in the community who has that knowledge and that understanding will be very beneficial for a lot of people, because it is, we were saying it literally today, like the amount of people coming through doing triathlons and doing, stepping outside their comfort zone with the athletic side of things, with the smaller stomach, having someone who can not only give them the information, but also put it in a way that we will be like, oh yeah, okay, I get that, is very important. So I think it's a great thing. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye out and, seeing what knowledge you have to throw my way.
Sure. Protein. Eat a lot.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that one before somewhere. I don't know where. Like, it seems to be the one big piece of information I get told a lot is eat more protein.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, when people found out how much protein I eat a day, they're like, aren't you scared you're going to get fat? And I'm like, no.
No.
That's not an issue I have at the moment. So,
Yeah.
if you could tell one piece of advice to somebody who's just starting out in this process, what would it be?
You need a great support system and to get your mental health on check, because the physical side, for me, and I'd say a lot of people, is the easiest, but the mental side is make or break. Like that can destroy you. Like, I didn't realize mine was as bad as it was, then eating disorder, and then, but I think also being open and honest that you've had the surgery. Like, you don't have to post it all over things, but I don't like when people say, like, you haven't seen me in a few months and I've dropped like 30 kilo. I'm like, oh yeah, I was just on like light and easy. And I'm like, can we not lie about it? Like, take the taboo away from weight loss surgery.
Break the stigma.
Yeah, because it's not easy.
No.
This was like one of the hardest things I ever did.
I understand why people sometimes don't talk about it, but I think you will notice over time, especially now, it'll become less, like people will hide it less. I know, for example, like, I openly admit I had weight loss surgery, and then it was something to people who obviously felt insecure by what I was achieving, used it against me, you know what I mean? So, it's always going to happen. You don't want someone to have ammunition coming into, a firefight like that. So, like, you don't tell them you had weight loss surgery because you don't want them to use that as like, they already had a hatred for you and you're like, oh, I feel like I've done really well. Yeah, but you had weight loss surgery, so I'm discrediting you. So you don't want to give people that ammunition. So I understand why people do it, but I think over time, as people like you and other people talk about the other things that come along with it, people will get a better understanding of, the extra challenges, because I did a post about it yesterday, and I said that first year isn't important for the weight you lose, because at the end of the day, you're going to lose that weight if you're not cheating yourself, if you're not, taking the high sugar liquid approach, and you're not eating those slider foods, the weight will come off. That first year is important because obviously you're having a food restriction. Food isn't at the forefront of your mind, and the ghrelin, obviously your lack of ghrelin, you're going to have that mental freedom. So that first year is important to understand your bad habits, implement good habits, and also kind of understand why you have a certain relationship with food, because that's what that first year is important, because as the food returns and those habits start, it can be very overwhelming if you don't use that first year in the right way. So, that's why it's important. It's not so much the weight loss, it's understanding why you had those weight
setting
issues
yourself
in the first
up
place.
for the rest of your life, really.
Well, yeah, that's it, because maintenance isn't as much fun as losing weight. And, when you couple it with overwhelming habits coming back into your life, and that addiction to food, and the restriction easing, it can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. So you've got to use that tool while the tool's at full force, because it will over time become more and more blunt as such. Anyway, it won't help you.
But it is too, because in reality, your appetite will come back.
Oh, yeah.
Your restriction does ease. It does not stay to that tiny little portion for the rest of your life. Like, you can stretch it back out. Plenty of people who have gained all their weight plus some
a lot.
back out because they did not address the mental side they had with food. Their food is fuel, calories in versus calories out, to why am I binge eating? Why am I like super emotional with it? Which I don't think any of us realize how fad of food habits we had until you
start actually like acknowledging them and calling yourself out on them, and like actually taking the time to take your ego away and be like, okay, I'm not perfect. Why am I not perfect? Like, why do I have these issues? And then as soon as you start opening those floodgates and start self-criticizing or self-analyzing, you start going, oh, wow, yeah, my food addiction ran pretty deep and I never understood it because I always justified it, and also like, made myself feel less, like not feel bad about it. So you justified it.
But I think it's also like, we're 3.5 years out. Like, Shannon and I are 3.5 years out now. And like, if we didn't address the mental side of things, we can eat a lot more. As you just said, your restriction eases. but we can eat a lot more than what we could in the past. So like if we didn't deal with the mental side of things leading into us being able to eat more now, like you'd almost be going onto a slippery slope of that you have stretched the sleeve, that you have, you know, failed,
and you built
so
your
to speak.
tolerance. Yeah, because I don't think you stretch your sleeve so much. I think you just build a more tolerance to it.
Well, that's the thing, because
Yeah.
at the very beginning when you can only eat 1 or 2 mouthfuls and then, you know, a quarter of a cup and then half a cup, it's not necessarily that your sleeve's super tight. It's just that you've got the swelling in your stomach. You've got staples in your stomach. Like you've just had major surgery on your stomach. Of course, you're going to have inflammation and all those sorts of things. Like that's why when you get a band, you don't have your first fill in your band for at least a month, because you've got to wait for all that swelling to go down and wait for the band to settle in, that sort of thing. So like within that first 12 months of having the surgery, yes, you're going to feel like you have a massive restriction because you've gone from eating, you know, 4 quarter-pounder meals to eating half a cup of food. But then over time, it's not necessarily that your band, that your sleeve stretches as such. It's just that you become used to your new norm and you don't have as much inflammation and all those sorts of things. Like there's so much that comes into it.
Yeah, and it's always working. Like as long as you always approach it like, and us sitting here and saying, you know, we've gone through this process and we're understanding we're at 3.5 years. We're still going through it. Like it's a constant work in progress. Like
it's never going to stop.
No, it could be 30 years down the track and I'll probably still have certain habits that I'm working on. I think you just need to adapt your brain to understand you do have issues and then start working on them. You know, you know, working to be better or understand it if that's what you want to do. If you want to get to a certain goal and maintain and be healthy and happy and not have like these restrictions that are formed through your size, then you need to understand why you have those issues in the first place. That's what it's all about, you know, self-growth.
Yeah.
I think
it's the same with, like you tell people as well, the more active you become, the hungrier you'll get as well, because your body needs it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like to people, just don't freak out. Like I can eat, I think maybe 3/4 of a steak now, but you can forget about sides.
Yeah.
Like that ain't going in.
Yeah. That's why I'll leave out breads and wraps a lot of the times. Like, you know, I'll have an omelette and I won't put it on bread, or like, you know, so for me, I leave like the high, like the stuff that doesn't have a lot of nutrition usually out. Like I can eat it. Like the other day I shared my omelette and it was quite a big omelette, but I would have used to have it on bread and probably bigger. You know, so you have to make those little sacrifices and, you know, to get the important stuff in. So.
Well, Gabby, it has been
do the same.
an absolute pleasure having a chat to you. You're a wealth of knowledge, and it's been delightful.
Thank you for sharing your process with us and sharing your journey. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that we had a few people reach out, like say they wanted to hear from you. So I hope they got, you know, what they were hoping for, you know, because, you know, you obviously, as much as you may have your critics that come along and don't appreciate you being like, you know, sharing what you share, there's a lot of people out there that probably do and take a lot away from that, of, you know, confidence and, you know, accepting what they have and different things like that. So as much as, you know, you may see sometimes people not liking it, by the sounds of it, there's a lot of people that really enjoy it as well. So thank you for sharing what you share, and thank you for coming on here and sharing it with us.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, like, thanks for having me and stuff, but at the same time, everyone's going to have an opinion on how you lose weight, how you don't lose it, how you do anything. Just do what you have to do for yourself.
Yeah, that's it. Find what works for you and then just, you know,
run with it.
F what everyone else thinks. Just as long as you like it, that's all that matters. So, yeah.
People are always going to have an opinion on your body, so you just got to learn to love it yourself.
What's the thing? Opinions are like assholes. We all have them. Anyway,
on that note,
that's another episode of Barry Banter.
Why, yes, that is another episode of Barry Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.